It's the Moss Minute.
Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of the Moss HR Minute. I'm Nicole Moss. I'm the co-founder of Moss Consulting HR Services, where we help business owners solve problems and operational challenges shaping today's workplace. On this show, we sit down with leaders and experts and entrepreneurs to uncover the real issue business owners face and how to tackle them with modern day solutions. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Jamie Lagarde, a technology and healthcare focused executive with more than 25 years of experience across sales, product, and technology leadership, including deep work in helping employers redesign and manage health plans. Jamie recently founded Masonry Health, which positions itself as a strategic partner to employers, not a broker, focused on building sustainable, transparent health plans and improving long-term plan performance. So here's how the show works. I'm going to ask Jamie 5 hard-hitting business questions that owners are struggling with right now, and you're going to give us an answer in 1 Moss Minute. That's just 60 seconds. We're going to time you.
Okay. I hope I'm ready.
Pressure's on. And then if it warrants it, we'll dive deeper into any topics that are exciting. So let's jump in.
Sounds great.
Question 1. Timer starts. Most employers only know about the broker model. When Masonry Health says you're not a broker, and you sit on the employer side of the table, what does that mean in real terms, in layman's terms? Give us that in 1 Moss Minute.
In 1 minute. Okay,
1 minute.
let's jump in.
Okay.
So typically when I start working with an employer, they've got a problem and the pain is pretty high. And they're like, what are we doing about this? And they've been working with their existing broker relationship and they're not getting the answers they're looking for. They're at least looking for another opinion.
Okay.
So we have a sit down with them and start to understand what the pain point is, what created the interest in having this conversation. And typically it's then a review of, we're looking at everything from their benefits guide to their contribution strategy, to then we're pulling data and we're looking at their data for their health plans, both on the medical and the RX side, to really understand what's going on. And so we'll come back to them after they've shared that data with us. We'll do an analysis of that and say, based on what we're seeing, we see that in almost every single case, there's a better strategy to implement. And so we'll walk through that strategy and then we'll talk about, okay, who's the best person to implement that strategy? So we stay involved at a strategic level, but this has really become a team sport, and we need to make sure we have the right broker supporting that effort and rolling out that strategy for the employers. And this isn't just a 1-year strategy. Typically, the way we like to look at it is Masonry, we're building something that lasts.
Yeah.
We're trying to build something that's going to serve them for the long haul.
Love it. Love it. Perfect. In 1 minute. That was great. A little over,
okay.
but we'll count.
I'll try to do better next time.
No, you're good. We're going to round down. We're going to call that one a win.
All right.
Follow-up question. What do you think, in your experience, is one of the most common misunderstandings employers might have about what their broker is or isn't doing?
Well, I think there's this expression called going to market.
Yes.
Going to market is
market.
okay. Going to market, let's see what the market is going to provide you. And typically that just means going to carriers, especially the smaller the employer. And so for when you get to north of 50 employees, more options open up. And so what we like to show for a little bit larger employers is, you know what, we can step away from the carrier model and do some innovative things. Okay. Again, to help drive, really, I would say, a better plan for the employees at a lower cost, not only to the employer, but also the employees as well. We talked about earlier about people being functionally uninsured.
Yes.
And so maybe we can give people, especially for the low income workers, we can provide economically almost free care to them, or in many cases, free care to them.
That's awesome. I love it. Excellent. Okay, Jamie, question number 2.
All right.
In 1 Moss Minute. So you've said that clients see on average a 33% reduction in healthcare spend while reinforcing benefits. That sounds too good to be true, frankly. So for owners listening who might be skeptical, where do you typically find the biggest sources of waste, and what lever do you pull first to address that?
So unfortunately, we see waste on both sides, both the medical and the RX. But the easiest place to start is on the drug side, the RX side. And so typically what we do when we start engaging an employer, we'll ask for them to pull 12 to 24 months of data from their current PBM solution. Okay. We'll look at that. We'll do an analysis of it. And then we'll see that, again, it's 10 to 15 drugs that are driving about 65 to 70% typically is what we see of the cost. Okay. And so the RX place is where we see it. It's the largest area of spend typically in a health plan, and it's growing faster than anything else. And we talked earlier today about GLP-1s and things like that are on there. And so, as a transition strategy, without even changing their PPM or their health plan, we can go in and say, hey, how about as a step one, let's just manage the acquisition of those 10 or 15 drugs. Let's get that done for the employer at a better price point.
And for you guys, that's probably a great way to start a relationship is say, hey, no changes to your plan. Your people won't know.
Right.
Let's just show you the value we can bring just with the RX spend.
Well, here's where the people will notice, because we'll say, okay, for these 15 drugs, you're going to get them from this quote unquote pharmacy. Okay. You're going to get them from this pharmacy. And if you were paying a copay for it, it's now free.
So positive experience for the employee.
Right. So there's a change, right? You're going to get this drug from here and it's probably going to come in the mail, right? Okay. But it's now free to you instead of the copay. I had a senior VP of a company that worked with, and I got a phone call from him the other day. You know, this goes back, I would say, about a year ago. And he says, Jamie, I said, so I got this phone call about this drug that I'm taking that when I was with Blue Cross, it had a $100 copay. They said, I no longer have to go to CVS to get the drug anymore. It's just going to show up at my house, which is great. But they say now it's, instead of a $100 copay, it's now $0. He's like, what's the catch? This sounds too good to be true. And I was like, this person's name, I said, there is no catch. He said, that's how much waste and inefficiency is in the current system. And I think deep down, we kind of knew something's going on, right? And so when we go after the easy button with a carrier, right? The major classic carriers that we all know are the easy button, and they do a lot of things really well.
Sure.
But you're way overpaying for it.
Yeah. To add to that, just as a follow-up question, open enrollment, especially with small to medium-sized businesses, open enrollment is a huge lift for the for either the business owner or the office manager or the HR team, depending on what size the company is. And a lot of times, especially in small to medium-sized businesses, the people who are running open enrollment are also running 100 other things and wearing many hats. And so the easy button is easy and fast, and we know it. We don't have to spend all this time communicating which is very important.
Right.
So with your team, could you help with the lift of open enrollment?
We do.
Okay.
That's what we do. So part of the strategy also includes rolling out of open enrollment, communication materials. We're using let's call it a health plan stack of the different components that are underneath that are all used to working together. Right. So this is a proven solution that in many cases that we're rolling out, the customizations are for a particular market are fairly,
Sure.
You may swap out a high performance network component or something like that.
Sure.
So no, we help through open enrollment because it is the most challenging time. And again, that's another reason why you need to have the right broker on your team as well.
Yep.
For one client, I won't say who the name was, we tried to implement a strategy with what I would call the carrier broker, right? Somebody who's familiar to work with carriers.
Yep.
And it didn't work very well. And so that broker is no longer part of the team. And we found a specialist, the surgeon, somebody who is more specialized in building innovative health plans for their employers. That's a key part of the team.
Perfect. Awesome. Question number 3. Employers hear transparency all the time, but most still can't answer basic questions like, where do the dollars go? What's negotiable and what's not? Who's profiting from what? So what does real transparency look like operationally? And what should an employer insist on seeing to know they actually have that transparency? Give that to us in 1 Moss minute.
Okay. This is a major problem. And when you're on a classic carrier plan, let's call it the reporting data you're going to get, and typically is going to be fairly limited, right? Okay. So to be able to ask the what if questions of like, hey, what's going on here? That's going to be in many cases a frustrating experience. So part of going to what I would refer a model that would refer to it as partially self-funded, where the company's funding, but then instead of the individual having insurance, the company has insurance.
Right.
Right. So that's the model that with the overall high level structure. Now that's the framework, but the real secret sauce is what are the tools inside of that partially self-funded model that you're picking. And that's what my team at Masonry, we specialize in.
Yeah.
So when you implement that, if you've done it properly, you're going to get a wealth of information and you're going to be able to ask those what if questions. And somebody like me in my role as a strategic advisor, I'm going to walk into a monthly meeting with the client and say, this is what happened last month. Here are the details. And by the way, based on this, we're making changes for my clients mid-year to deal with cost containment issues. So instead of addressing this every 12 months, we're looking at this every month to say, hey, we have a GLP-1 problem. We're going to make this modification that we're going to source that drug instead of here, we're going to source it here.
Oh, that's huge.
Right. Because looking at it once a year, well, if I would have known I had that issue in April, I could have solved it in April, but now the problem has gone on for another 6 months. And so then my renewals even is quite a bit higher. So part of what Masonry is doing is looking at the data that we've just talked about, removing this concept of a black box. Let's look at it every month, and we can make mid-year plan changes without, quote unquote, changing the plan from an employee-facing perspective. We're doing behind-the-scenes adjustments.
Monthly. That's huge because you're right. You see something if you would have known in April, you could have changed it in May. Like it's a totally I'm such a nerd to be so excited about this, but it's huge. To follow up with that question, you'd mentioned something about partially self-funded, and a lot of our we love to grow with our clients, and a lot of the times we grow to the point where it's time to start looking at self-funded plans, and for most employers that is terrifying. It's a really, really big shift in one, the administration, but two, the cost. And I know there's stopgaps and captives and all of the things, but if you could give a quick bit of advice for employers who might be scared about going fully or partially funded, like to self-funded or partially self-funded, what would you say to them?
So I'd offer two pieces of advice. This is a conversation that we could do a podcast just on this topic,
alone,
right?
Yes, it's huge.
And that could be fun.
Yeah, we should.
But I would give two pieces of advice. One, if you're debating between what level of insurance, especially year one, that you go buy, I would buy for the lower, what's called the lower attachment point. The insurance that is most important is called individual stop loss. So if you're debating between two, in year one, pay a little extra and get the lower attachment point so the insurance kicks in sooner on a case that's big. Okay. Even if you say, oh, well, our savings in year one are going to be impacted by buying the lower insurance, you need to look at this as a long-term strategy, not just about what happens in year one, right? So your CFO, my advice to the CFO would be buy the lower attachment point, especially in year one. And the second point is I would spend a little bit of money and have an actual actuary, not an underwriter, but an actuary do the analysis for you about setting your rates and those things, and then develop that relationship with the actuary that you use every year. Now, actuaries may say, oh, that's very cost prohibitive. Compared to the cost of insurance, it's not that expensive. And it's worth it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. It comes up often, and we should do a podcast on that because I think it would be really informative. That's a huge inflection point in any kind of business because of the growth and strategy, and a lot of the people that are running these businesses have never dealt with that risk or that cost at all at that point of health. It's huge. Okay, question number 4. You're killing it, Jamie.
Woohoo!
A lot of healthcare solutions feel like temporary hacks and don't really hold up year over year. What does it mean to build a plan that endures, and what are the structural decisions that make saving and performance sustainable instead of temporary? In 1 minute.
Okay, in 1 minute. I would say my team looks at when an employer has to go to market.
Go to market,
right? And we talked about the limitations of that earlier, where they're not always seeing the best options that are out there. That represents actually failure. That means the plan, you don't want the same, you don't want the same thing, or the renewal came in too high and you're forced to go to market. The plan, in a way, didn't do its job at controlling costs. And so you're going to market to find something better. Okay, right? So, I mean, hey, I'm going to get rid of my car every year, right? And maybe that analogy doesn't work, but we're sort of.
It kind of does.
I think it does.
Because it'd be silly.
It's silly, but we're saying, so much for this plan, we're going to go on to something else. And yes, they're going to adjust the rate every year, but why don't we build a structure, a framework that is long-term thinking, that's got such great cost containment in it on both the medical and the RX side, that what we're talking about is not throwing it all away at the end of the year. What other adjustments do we want to make, or enhancements? And so again, for some of my clients, what they've done year 2 and year 3 is offer additional enhancement that align with the cost containment goals that we're trying to accomplish.
Love
it. It's adjustments instead of throwing it all away.
I love that. We need to be, you said it earlier, and when you go self-funded, you need to think long-term, not in a year, and you really need to decide and stay with that. Same thing here, but with Masonry Health, you're not locked into anything for a year. You could adjust monthly if you had to.
We're adjusting things all the time for our clients, right? Excellent. We're looking at the data. Where are the high costs? We might need a direct contract in one particular case. We may need to source these medications a different way. We may need to make a formulary adjustment, right? So there's all sorts of things that we're adjusting for our clients in concert with their broker and with their HR team.
Love it.
Woohoo!
Okay, Jamie, question number 5. What should an owner do to implement a redesigned health plan smoothly, from executive alignment to employee communication to vendor coordination, in 1 minute?
Okay. I would say two things. One, for our clients, the level of involvement that we have with them in year one is more than in year two or year three, right? Because of the change management that comes into the HR's got different things they need to do. In cases, the finance team has different things that need to do. And so we're working with both of those departments. And then we're also working with the communications team to help craft the open enrollment presentation, handouts, and pieces of information that go out to educate the employees about the plan. So, but the one piece of advice I would give would be to start early. So if you want to think about, because what you don't want to create is this time, there's this time, we're running out of time to implement what we're going to pick for next year. Avoid that game as much as you possibly can. So I would say, right when you are wrapping up open enrollment for this year is a great time in that Q1 or Q2. So 70% of employers have an annual kind of open enrollment. The new plan year starts on 1/1.
Right.
So Q1, early Q2, let's start looking at the data. What are the last 12 months of claims look like? What are the issues that you're facing? What are you happy about your plan? What are you not happy about your plan? And then then you can understand what's going on. That's part one. 2, you map out that strategy. And then 3, now we're left with some time to implement.
Love it. Love it. Perfect. Follow-up question to that. If you could give HR leaders one non-negotiable to this whole protecting employees' trust during a plan change, what would that be?
Well, I would say my answer would be this. When you can start looking at the data and like, how do we control plan costs? I would just, and you can spend all the time figuring out, okay, what's the best plan and, strategies that we want to implement. But it's always really important from my perspective to take a step back and then make sure you're putting yourself in the employee's shoes and understand what the experience is going to be like for them. So in the clients that, we work with, I want to see some significant, very positive improvement for their lives, for themselves and their dependents that are on the plan. Like in the second year for one of our clients where we implemented that free drug tier. That was a massive win. And employees were like, that sounds too good to be true. Right. So finding those really impactful things that frankly, in some cases don't cost the plan too much, I would look for those as part of your redesign strategy. That way you say, okay, look, we want you to go here instead of here for your healthcare, but look at this major win that's coming along with it. So it's an incentive to maybe making some behavioral changes along the way, if that makes sense.
Perfect. I love that.
Woohoo!
I think we nailed it, Jamie.
I think pretty good.
Dang. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us for
Thank you.
This edition of the Moss HR Minute. Your perspective on building sustainable health plans, driving transparency, and reducing healthcare spend without degrading benefits is exactly what business owners need to hear. If you would like to connect with Jamie or learn more about Masonry Health, you can reach him at letstalk@masonryhealth.com. Can I give your phone number out?
Absolutely.
His phone number is 512-262-9711 or visit masonryhealth.com. If you're a business owner needing on-site HR, recruiting, payroll support, or help with employee relation issues, visit mossconsulting.com or book time with me using the link below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next episode.
It's fast, it's fun, it's the Moss